We live in a system that is designed to extract our time, our energy, and our money. So in order to take back control and own our time, energy, and money, we need to be aware of how and why these systems are designed this way and how they are operating to control us. Today, I'm sharing how private equity and enshitification ruined my favorite pet and house sitting site, TrustedHousitters, and what I learned about my mind and my body in managing my rage over it. Get ready, because this is a perimenopausal, witch rage-fueled rant. Welcome to Hexotica, the place where unconventional women and gender-diverse creatives learn how to turn their creativity into online income. I'm your host, Christine Rice, and this is episode 23. Welcome back to Hexotica. Hello. It is so good to have you here back in this world. Recently, someone asked me, why do I refer to everyone as cygnets? Why is the swan a symbol of Hexotica? And it's because I see all of our fears and our imposter syndrome as ugly duckling fears. They're the things that kind of keep us living an ugly duckling persona or point of view when we are all swans. And we can start to embrace that swan feeling of confidence and a feeling that we have every right to show up and take up space in the world. Speaking of space, I recorded this 2 days before Christmas starts, right? And when I went shopping yesterday, the mall and the shopping centers were very crowded, and I could not help but notice how many young women were apologizing when I would try to get past them. And no, there's nothing wrong with that. It's super polite, right? And it's something that I see a lot of in Australia, especially. People are a lot more. I think people are generally a bit more polite here, to be honest. I might be wrong, but that's just my impression. And so many young girls were saying, "Excuse me," or "I'm sorry," when they did not need to. And I almost wanted to take this one girl who had said sorry to me 3 times in the same store. I wanted to take her and say, "Honey, stop apologizing for taking up space in this world. You don't need to apologize. You weren't even she wasn't even in my way. She was just near, but the distance between me and her made her feel like she needed to say, I'm sorry. We don't need to do that. Like, there's genuine times we need to say, I'm sorry, right? But like one of my favorite writers many years ago said, women will apologize to inanimate objects. And if you have been out in public, sometimes you have seen that happen. They'll apologize to things that aren't even moving, because we are conditioned to say that we are not allowed to be in a space, that we're conditioned to play it small and to not take up space. So if you're young and you're listening to this, know that you are allowed to take up space and stop apologizing. Okay, so now I've got that out of the way. I want to thank you for, if you've been listening, if you come back to the podcast, with a special shout out, especially to Chameleon of High Spirits Divine Jewelry and Sundries, because she left a Hexia on the YouTube video last week. And I really sincerely thank you so much for your support with listening. It means so much to me. So when you follow and you say Hexia like that, I will follow you back on every single platform that I can find to support you. So if you are listening, leave a Hexia on the YouTube video or on the blog or any of my social media. I will know that you are a listener of the podcast. That's kind of a secret code, Hexia. And if you're new here, welcome. This is a place to learn about online business and marketing, and to learn how to live a more badass, swan-like life where we're overcoming our ugly duckling fears and imposter syndrome. So today I am talking about something that dysregulated the fuck out of me, and it helped me. It stopped me from putting out a podcast on time about 2 weeks ago. I'd mentioned that I had an email that had came and completely threw me off course. And today I'm going to talk about what that was. It has to do with private equity. It has to do with enshitification, and it has to do with how we manage our bodies and our minds with the constant stresses that keep continuing to pile up, especially after this year. We want to go into 2026 being regulated AF, right? We want to go into 2026 where we can sit in a room where all kinds of noise and chaos and things are coming at us, and we're sitting there like little Zen monks, right? I mean, that's the ideal. You may have heard about the nervous system and regulating your nervous system and how important it is. Hopefully you have, because it's kind of a trend now to talk about it, because what people are realizing is that a nervous system that is regulated and calm is the secret to almost fucking everything in life. It's the secret to productivity. It's the secret to focus. It's the secret to manifesting. It's the secret to sleeping well. It's the secret to relationships. It's the secret to making money. It is one of the most important skills that we can learn. And the reason why is because we have so much stress thrown at us that we are constantly in this survival state with our nervous systems, right? It's like we were biologically programmed to constantly outrun tigers and bears for so many millions of years that is what our system does when we get into a state of stress, right? And now, because we have so much stress happening, we don't know how to get out of it. And we're constantly in that state. So that's kind of what this podcast is about, how that happens, the different things that are in the world that are making that happen with us, how it happened to me, and what we can do about it. So let's get started. So if you've ever wondered why all software and all social media platforms eventually become so shit to use, which is the process of enshitification, this will help you understand why that is. And this is the story about TrustedHousitters and an email. For digital nomads looking for accommodation, and for pet and home owners who are looking for cheaper alternatives to kennels, TrustedHousitters used to feel like a godsend until the day their 2023 private equity buyout resulted in their inevitable enshitification of the site. As with most corporate gougings, they began with an email, and this began with an email. You know the ones. They come into our lives like the modern equivalent of a bear or tiger crashing through the doors as far as our nervous system and levels of stress and rage are concerned. Fee increase, something, something, better service for you, something, something. But all I read was, okay, so the greedy suited motherfuckers at the top are going out for an all-out cash grab for their shareholders. So now you got to pay us more, you stinking peasant. So it's as if a digital gloved hand flies through the screen, grabbing and shaking you by the neck to wring the last frayed nerve you've got left after years of global gouging and greedflation that started around the COVID pandemic. Oh, the rage that welled up inside of me when I got this email. The rage at their ridiculous $18 Australian new booking fee for both sitters and homeowners, in addition to their annual fee, which is already kind of on the high end as far as pet sitting sites go. And its arrival came right before the holiday season, when they knew that thousands of digital nomads across the globe and thousands of homeowners and pet owners all around were getting ready and locking in and confirming their pet and house sits before this Christmas season. Now, I know I'm perimenopausal and hormonal AF, right? I am a 50-year-old woman. But something about this fee increase it eviscerated something deep inside me. This email sent me into such a tailspin of angry commenting alongside hundreds of other users of TrustedHousitters, and it's thousands of international pet sitters and homeowners alike. It deregulated the fuck out of my mind and my body. It threw me off focus. It made it hard to get that week's podcast episode out on time, right? And it took me a few days of intense self-coaching to identify what was happening at the subconscious level of my brain that would provoke such indignation and such distraction. But signets, I worked it out in the end. I got to the bottom of it. And because this issue of software enshitification is endemic to my experience working as a marketing mentor, and especially over the previous 9 years working as a freelance social media manager, I feel compelled to share the exact nuances of this particular fine blend of rage and indignation, because it's a specialty blend many people are going to relate to, right? It's the kind of rage that late stage capitalism and economic pressure that we're all feeling here at the final year of this year of epic and unmatched global bullshit that is 2025 are feeling, right? This wasn't about a price rise. It wasn't about the booking fee. It was, and it felt like, a freedom tax. So this is a rant about freedom being quietly taxed piece by piece by private equity, enshitification, and endless corporate greed around the world. It's a rant about our sense of safety and our sense of injustice, and the daily struggle to stay emotionally regulated in a world that is hell-bent on strangling us with an onslaught of new stressors that all derive from a rising inequality and unbridled greed. But don't worry, it's not only a rant. I'm also going to share some alternatives to Trusted Housesitters that you can check out for my digital nomads and for people who have found this episode because you are pissed off at Trusted Housesitters in particular. And I'm going to list some impactful ways that we can fight against this ongoing corporate greed and enshitification. So first, let me share what house sitting meant to me, what Trusted Housesitters in particular meant to me, and how I see it as part of a relief service rather than a luxury service. House and pet sitting sites based on the exchange of free services are not a part of the luxury travel industry the same way that Airbnb is, for example. Short-term rentals like Airbnb are a huge part of the explosive rise in rental costs and demands for rents in major cities around the world. In Melbourne alone, over 14% of all available rental houses are short-term rentals as of 2023. Unlike luxury travel-based sites, free exchange-based pet and house sitting sites exist as a part of relief travel. Relief from accommodation fees for travelers, and relief from kennels and caretaker fees for pet and homeowners. Relief from adding to the housing crisis, and relief from being a part of all that. It's an ethical way to travel because it does not add to the housing crisis that many cities are currently facing, including Melbourne, where renters have been getting financially suffocated by these short-term rental services like Airbnb. Free pet and house sitting sites are built on a huge win-win core value for home and pet owners. For homeowners, pet and house sitting services mean that their homes are safer, their lawns are cared for, and their pets enjoy time at home instead of in stressful kennels. For sitters, they are an escape valve for those of us seeking to enjoy a change of scenery that does not cost us a fortune in accommodation fees. And for many travelers and digital nomads across the globe, it's their entire lifestyle, an alternative lifestyle, which is what Hexotica is all about and why I've covered pet and house sitting many times here in Hexotica's world. But for me, Trusted Housesitters meant freedom. Many sits that I did when I was a full-time pet sitting digital nomad were for a minimum of 2 weeks. The longest I ever did was 3 months. But these days, I pet sit on the average of only 1 week or weekend per quarter. I do sits to have a place to stay overnight that are closer to the Melbourne CBD when I have events and parties or things that I want to attend there. Or I do sits just to have peace and quiet and to spend some time alone. So it's something I'd love to always have planned in my calendar because I believe that happiness is always having something to look forward to. It's one of the most joyful aspects of my current lifestyle. I love caring for different kinds of animals, getting to know a pet's personality, taking dogs for walks, and exploring new areas. Earlier this year, I spent 2 weeks exploring Adelaide just because I had never been there before. I sat for an older cavoodle in Glenig, and it was wonderful. And the last sit I did was just before this new booking fee was introduced, the previous weekend before I got this email. And I did it mainly to help the pet owner out because I've sat for her 3 times before and she just really needed someone because someone had canceled on her. So I was loyal to Trusted House Sitters because I love how easy and enjoyable it was to find available sits all around the world. And I had built up a nice reference base there. I wanted to be able to have this huge reference base there of lots and lots of referrals so that when I was ready to go to Europe or to go traveling further afield than Australia, I would have lots and lots of choices of places to stay. I literally would use Trusted House Sitters just to daydream about going places and to look at people's houses and to see what was out there. Sometimes there'd be such amazing places that would come up, like literally castles in Scotland or castles in France or mansions in England or really old big homes or cute little tiny cottages in the woods. Like just so much fun to be able to look at the possibilities of where I could travel and the pets that I could take care of. It's kind of almost like a pastime. But Trusted House Sitters were not loyal to me. The annual fee should be enough, right? But the platform got greedy. A booking fee that amounts to $18 in Australian for both the pet owner and for the sitter for every single sit. It just makes no sense for people like me who are only doing like weekend sits for 1 night or 2 nights. That's exorbitant. And with how easy it can be to secure sits on totally free sites like Facebook groups or community groups, or just to get them through referrals, I just cannot see how these excessive fees are sustainable. So to understand why this is happening with Trusted House Sitters as well as with other sites, we need to understand why enshitification happens. And this isn't about one software platform going bad or one user disregarding a new fee introduction, right? It's a repeatable pattern that we see happening all across the internet. Corporate gouging, aka greedflation. Greedflation is corporate price gouging. It's when big companies excessively raise prices on goods and services well fucking beyond normal cost increases. And they do it during crises like the COVID pandemic, during big disasters, or due to market power. All in pursuit of fat profits with malicious disregard for their consumers and buyers. It's greedy, blatant exploitation. And here's how it plays out. Community-based platforms start and grow on trust, reciprocity, and mutual benefit. Then they get bought out by private equity. And suddenly, the goal shifts from service to extraction. Features that once reduced friction are now monetized friction. Prices creep up and value leaks out. Both sides of the marketplace get squeezed, not because the platform is failing, but because it's working exactly as designed. And that design is for maximum extraction. Now, here's what you need to know about private equity's part in enshitification. And I'm going to throw some different terms out for you that will help arm you with understanding why these things happen. Private equity is a short-term focus on aggressive profit extraction, often at the expense of long-term company health, including job cuts, stalled innovation, as an asset stripping, and heavy debt burdens, rather than a focus on sustainable growth. So an example in the US is what happened to Red Lobster. It's an example. Another example would be what happened to Toys R Us or Joann's Fabrics. These are big companies that got bought by private equity and then had the life squeezed out of them. Now, critics see this model as turning successful businesses into nothing more than a cash cow for the return for their investors and not giving a shit what happens to the brand or to the employees or to the buyers. Purely shareholder benefit. The people at the top is the only thing they want to serve. It's the only thing that matters to private equity. It's just like a giant vacuum cleaner, basically. Now, this enshitification in its purest form is rent-seeking behavior dressed up as growth. And that's when a product becomes a toll booth and the community becomes the resource that is being strip-mined. Enshitification is an inevitable outcome of hyper-capitalism and the drive to extract maximum profit for shareholders. Now, hyper-capitalism is extreme advanced stage of capitalism where profit becomes the central organizing principle and commercializing every aspect of life, from marriage to divorce to post-divorce. Like every aspect of life can be monetized. Hobbies get monetized, social interaction, all cultural aspects, all cultural niches, interests, everything possible gets monetized. And it's driven by deregulation, globalization, new media, and intense commodification of experiences. And it leads to wide-scale inequality, it leads to alienation, and it leads to corporate powers being able to have more power and money than even governments. And sometimes even individuals, billionaires, having more power and money than governments. That is hyper-capitalism. Rent-seeking behavior is when individuals or groups use political influence to gain wealth or advantages without creating any more value. So they're essentially manipulating the system for a bigger slice of existing wealth rather than growing the economic pie. And it leads to economic inefficiency, stifled competition, and misallocated resources, as all the energy is spent on lobbying and legal maneuvering rather than on making products and services better. So it's extraction over service every single time. Now, the good news is that private equity is a business model that has thankfully fallen on its ass. It has begun to finally lose favor. Private equity fundraising slid to a 7-year low in the last year, and with a record number of firms chasing this dwindling pot of capital, it was behind 70% of U.S. bankruptcies in the first quarter of this year, 2025. 70%. So most big companies that are going bust because they're getting bought up by this huge private equity vacuum cleaner and they're getting sucked dry of everything. Now, I can pretty much assure you that with all the people that are angry at Trusted House Sitters, this is what we're going to see happen to Trusted House Sitters. They are going to fucking get bankrupt with what they've done. They don't care because the people at the top bought it and now they're making a profit. They don't give a shit about all the people that have been using it and building it for years, building their reference models. Private equity is a broken as fuck business model. So on the morning that I received the email regarding the new booking fee, I found myself among many hundreds of other users complaining on a Facebook reel on the Trusted House Sitters Facebook page. Okay. I was among many who got into a long line of comments complaining, and I collected some of those top comments to share on my blog so that hopefully people can read them and know that this was not right. And they will read them and know what happened to Trusted House Sitters when it goes bankrupt, because it is going to go bankrupt at this point. So I have 3 here. One of them is a little bit long, so I'll just skip to the 2 that are a bit shorter. Here's a comment by Nikki McKenzie, who is a sitter. We completed 27 5-star sits through Trusted House Sitters last year, ranging from 2 days to 3 weeks. We loved every single sit, but will look for other sits elsewhere now. The only benefit to being with Trusted House Sitters is the volume of sits. But if enough people go elsewhere and join the competition, then that will quickly change. Thank you again, Trusted House Sitters, for showing us exactly the kind of company that you are. Oh, and the shady move with T's and C's won't wash. I have reported you to trading standards. And what she's referring to there is that they gave users no choice about this booking fee. They had a pop-up that forced users to agree to the new terms and conditions before they were even able to cancel confirmed sits or to check in with pet owners and homeowners. They couldn't use the site until they agreed to these new terms and conditions. So if you had 3 sits lined up for December and January, peak holiday season, then suddenly you're forced to agree to this terms and conditions and have to pay $18 fees for each of those sits, £9 or whatever it is in your exchange rate. That's the first one by a pet sitter, Nikki McKenzie. Here's another one. Courtney Elmendor Faust. I rave about Trusted House Sitters all the time. However, I just got the email about the new fees and I am appalled. People already pay your annual fee, and this is just a way to nickel and dime your tried and true customers. I'm a host, and I think this is even worse for the house sitter. I will offer to pay my house sitter's fee if this is indeed the sticks. However, this should not stick. So that's from a homeowner who's also pissed off, and he's pointing out that she can just pay us directly rather than have to book through a site that's going to nickel and dime you. Here it is, Trusted House Sitters. There's a lot of other sites. There's a lot of other Facebook groups where we can meet homeowners and we can meet pet owners without you. You only offered volume, and there's going to be other sites that are going to take your place. Now, if you're not using Trusted House Sitters and you're wondering, why does this matter? It's because of the principles. It's because of an ethical line, a boundary that they crossed. And it's about us recognizing that the convenience of a site ends when our ethical boundaries are crossed. When things get crossed, there should be a point where we're no longer interested in the convenience and we want to stick to the values that we built the site upon, that we were loyal to, and that we adhere by. And in this world today, these boundaries being crossed with this extraction process by private equity and enshitification, we don't have to put up with it. We have people power. We don't have to use your conveniences. We can find it elsewhere, or we could just not have it at all. And you see this especially with the streaming services right now, which are also doing the same. There's massive enshitification happening with all the streaming services. And a lot of people are just like, you know what? I don't need Amazon Prime anymore. I don't need Netflix. I don't need any of these streaming channels. I'm going to absolutely cancel all of them. And FYI, the pirate streaming services are damn good and they're coming fast and strong. So there are other options out there. We can find different ways to get around having to use your services. Okay, so now you've heard what happened with Trusted House Sitters. You've heard why I am so angry, what got taken from me, and you've understood some new words to describe how the system operates to extract your time, your energy, and your money from you. So you might be wondering at this point, okay, Christine, what the fuck do I do about it? And why should I care? Because what can we do about it, right? And this is where I want to appeal to your sense of injustice and a call to arms, because there's actually a lot that we can do about it, not only to protect ourselves and our mind and our body, but to change how this is happening. So I am putting this out in hopes that the fuckers at Trusted House Sitters and enough users who are angry like me will hear or see this or come across it in a Google search looking for alternatives to Trusted House Sitters. And they will know that their anger is justified, that this was not right, and that it was not just a £9 or $18 Australian fee. It's not just about those things, right? In addition to the people power that we have to say no to this shit process, is that we can be aware of when it's happening. If I had known Back in 2023, when TrustedHousitters got bought by private equity, I would have made the jump right then and there, knowing what I know now. As soon as a company gets bought by private equity, don't waste any more time, money, or energy into that site. Go ahead and leave, because the process of enshitification is very likely to happen. It's not guaranteed. You can stick around to see what happens if you want. But I, for one, will be jumping ship every time I see a company get bought by private equity. And next, I will be on the lookout to see which companies I'm spending my time, energy, and money on, and how they are responding to the market forces out there that might encourage them to get sold or to buy. If they have, for example, and I think this is something that, it's probably not out there, but I would love to see it. I would love to see software companies make the ethical stance that they will not sell to private equity. I would put my money toward companies that are making that statement to say that they will not be sold out in that way, that they have a loyalty to their users, and they will never sell to private equity. Maybe this is something that is, hasn't happened yet, or maybe it has, I don't know, but it's something that I would definitely love to see if it were out there. But until then, all we can really do is to be aware of when a company gets bought up and to expect and anticipate that enshitification will pursue if that happens. Alternatives to trusted house sitters. So let's look at the alternatives to trusted house sitters. Now, finding alternatives to trusted house sitters is the only response to their fee gouging for me. I refuse to pay any tax on the freedom and joy I've enjoyed by offering my pet sitting services in a free exchange of short-term accommodation. No site is going to be perfect. Some fees to protect privacy and maintain a secure and honest review system and police checks are preferable to sites like Facebook groups, in my opinion. But we can find sites that are less extractive and provide just as much, if not more, value. One of the biggest advantages I've found in switching to Aussie house sitters is that instead of getting 2 months membership for free, as I did with Trusted House Sitters, I now can get actual cash earned from each referral that I do. So that's a big win for me, and I'm happy to move over to Aussie house sitters. Some other alternative pet sitting sites that do not charge excessive fees include Mind My House, which is older, cheaper, and has no per booking fees. House Carers, which is a long-running, more no-frills site. Nomador, which is popular in Europe. And then you can do local Facebook groups. Local groups are always one of the best places to advertise yourself as a free sitter. You won't get quite the convenience of being able to see what the people's houses and pets look like ahead of time. But once you get those good referrals come in, it does get easier and easier. The final thoughts I have about trusted house sitters here is don't be looking at any of these pet and house sitting sites as free accommodation, like just it's like a cheap vacation. Okay, they are services. It's not just a free holiday. So I want to add, in case you are thinking about it as just a good place to go get free accommodation for a holiday, it's not super easy sometimes. Sometimes it can be quite restrictive. So I just want to add that, and I've got more details on that on my blog. But for example, this last sit that I did, these 2 dogs were not used to being left alone for more than 4 or 5 hours. So she required and asked me to not be out of the house for more than 4 or 5 hours. And if I was going to, she wanted to have a friend come by to take care of the dogs. Just because if their dogs are not used to that, they're going to have high anxiety if they get left alone. So you do sometimes have to work with the pet owner to know how to keep the dogs calm and happy while you're there. And on this particular sit, it also meant that I had to be okay with sleeping with dogs, which was not a problem for me because I sleep with my own dogs and I love doggy cuddles. I may have another podcast or two coming out this year. I'm not sure. I may decide to have a break. But until then, thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to leave a Hexia if you have listened to the podcast and enjoyed it. And I will find you. I'll seek you out and I will follow your platforms wherever you are on social media. Thank you for so much for listening and have a lovely Merry Christmas. Or I should say, have a Merry Gothmas. Bye.